Now I'm right clicking. See how close you can get? That's pretty close. Now sooner or later I'm going to get a warning that says, hey, you've gone in too far. There's the warning right there. Maximum zoom level achieved. Now we've zoomed in pretty tight, and we're just going to say OK. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, right click, right click, right click, right click. Bring everything back into perspective here. Right click, right click, right click. Now we can get in just about as tight as we want with the zoom tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to just move on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and delete this with delete on the keyboard. Okay. So now let's move on to the next tool, the freehand tool. Now the freehand tool is when we click on it and select it, we can do things like this. But you remember what I was talking about earlier about open paths. So if I click on my pick tool to select it and come over to the color palette and select a color, it doesn't fill with color. Reason for that is because right here it's an open path. Now two ways of doing that, of fixing that I should say, is a shortcut of going to, remember we said if you hold down the and get the shape tool, hold down the button and to get the tool that you want. A shortcut of going back to the shape tool so it brings up the nodes. Now notice with the pick tool I can just move it around. I can't really do anything besides stretch and pull and stuff like that. So if I want to bring up the nodes, I have to, even though I can see a node here, what I want to do is click on it once, double click on it. Now I can come in here and move the nodes around. And again, I've got the little handles here. Now remember we talked about this line moving. See how the other line is moving? These two here. Remember, because this has to be cusped. So what I'm going to do is marquee select it really quick. Up here in the toolbar we've got to curve, which is not selected, but we do have cusp. So now that we select it, we deselect it by clicking off in the white space. So now we can move it, each line independently. But until we fill this with color, connect these two lines, let's zoom in, drag. Now until we click on our shape tool, I can take this line or this node and drag it over to this one, and when they get close enough they act like two magnets. They're drawn together. And the reason it filled with color is because we pre-selected the color earlier when we told it to fill with color, but it couldn't fill with color because this path was open. Now the other way of doing what I just did, I'm going to back up just a little bit. Okay. Now the other way of doing what I just did is to, well, first of all let's do undo, and I'm going to double click on it. That's just like clicking on the shape tool. I'm going to marquee select the whole thing. Now I'm going to come up here in my toolbar one more time, and I'm going to, there's a couple of different ways. You can go to arrange. You could close path, and you could close nodes with, I don't know if you can see that, close nodes with curvy lines, or I could just tell it up here in the toolbar to extend curve to close. And it does the exact same thing. So what it does is it takes the two nodes that are closest together but separated, and it basically draws a straight line in between them. So moving on, that is using the freehand tool. Now you can sign a, I'm going to click on the delete. You can sign your name. Whoops, back up, Control Z. That's what I get for trying to look at the monitor while I'm doing this. And of course you can adjust this tool up here in the property bar, way over on the other side, is something called the freehand smoothing tool. And I think it's just out of range of the camera here. But this is set up for 60%. We can change it to 100%, or we can change it to 30%. So whatever it is you draw, it depends on the smoothing. So how rough it looks or how smooth it comes out. Now if we adjust it higher than 60%, let's say to 100%, when I draw a line, you can see how much smoother it looks.